Okay, so back to animation. So this one right here was what I call the second funniest animated movie I've seen. The first funniest being Shrek. Now, I did see this in theaters at the time it came out. Again, I've seen this movie so many times, as with a lot of other of the animated films and other films that I talk about. So, underachiever Oscar is a pint-sized fish with grand aspirations. When a mob-connected great white shark, Frankie, is accidentally killed, Oscar concocts a story with Frankie's peace loving brother, Lenny, that it was he who murdered the shark. Suddenly hailed Shark Slayer by his aquatic brethren, Oscar has bigger fish to fry when Frankie's father, mob boss Don Lino, dispatches his henchmen to track down his son's killer. Now, the budget on this movie was 75 million and the box office was nearly 375 million. So that's pretty great for an animated film. I also think that you had a great cast to this as well who did the voices. So you had, I mean, you're talking big names here: Will Smith, Robert De Niro, Renee Zellweger, Angelina Jolie, Jack Black, Martin Scorsese, Katie Couric, Michael Imperioli, Peter Falk, Vincent Pastore. You had all of them. So the ratings on this movie were, again, I think Rotten Tomatoes was definitely unfair when it came to this one. I tell you, Rotten Tomatoes is no joke. They gave the movie a 35%. Now, some sources were much nicer. Google users gave it 69, Internet Movie Database gave it 60, Common Sense Media gave it 80. Now, how do they break it down on Common Sense Media? The official site, their review was 80, the parents gave it 60, the kids gave it 60. Now, is it any good? This hip hop slash mob action comedy set under sea is fast, fresh, fun, and funny. And then, actually, no, that says finny funny. Okay, wow, I didn't even catch that at first. And okay, just a little cheesy humor there. Okay, you watch the movie and see if you don't come out making silly jokes like that. This isn't a classic like Finding Nemo or Shrek, but it throws so much at you so fast that you'll be too busy enjoying yourself to notice. The plot is nothing special, but the visuals are with eye popping color and wonderfully expressive fish phrases, hilariously funny and surprisingly touching. The voice talent is top notch, and the animators have managed to bring the essence of the actors to the characters. Don Lino has Robert De Niro's birthmark on his cheek, and Oscar has Will Smith's eyes and mouth. There are dozens of gags and pop cultural references, and some bright musical numbers that keep things moving briskly with a remake of the Rolls Royce car wash by Missy Elliott and Christina Aguilera, a highlight. Now, yeah, I mean, in retrospect, there were a lot of silly references here. I mean, it was kind of like, for example, they in one of the scenes, uh, he had he was on a magazine after they thought he killed the shark, and so it's like, okay, there was a one called Gup, which was supposed to be a reference to Gap. Of course, they had Fish King, meaning Burger King. They had the starfish that were laying on the ground, and you had some names underneath it, like you know Jessica Shrimpson, Cod Stewart, Muscle Crow, and they had one called Seal, and they actually had the seal came and it was like an actual seal barking and all that. So it was a bunch of little silly references to that and little jokes about that. It was funny. Like I said, if it wasn't for Shrek, I would say that this was the funniest animated movie of all time. But again, Shrek barely topped it. But as far as my review on this, I give it 10 out of 10. This movie is hilarious. It's one of the few animated movies I'll still watch to this day, while many others I've outgrown. But I would say to people in my age group, if you have kids, or even people older, if you have kids or whatever, I would say show this movie to them. As of the recording of this video, it is on Netflix. I would think that it would have been on Peacock because it's a DreamWorks movie, and a lot of DreamWorks movies are, or at least were, on Peacock, like the Shrek movies, like the Madagascar movies, and some others. But I think that this film was, again, somewhat kind of a masterpiece. It wasn't like as they said, it wasn't a classic in that sense because it didn't really hold that long time, what do you call it, long lasting legacy as a movie like a Shrek or even like a Toy Story, or I would say kind of not even like an Ice Age. But again, nevertheless, it was really hilarious. Now, according to, I think there was an article according to Screen Rant. Now, at first I thought this movie would have a sequel to it, but it looks like that's not going to happen. I think it's been far too long. But then again, at the same time, there are other movies that went a long time before they had a sequel. The Incredibles waited 14 years before they did a sequel. And then, of course, you had, I know this is a little bit different because it's a different genre and plus it's real actors, but then you also had Top Gun and it was what 1986 to 2022 before they did a sequel. So you're talking 96, 06, 2016. So 36 years. But I mean, again, hey, I'm not going to sit here and say that I know it's impossible or that I know for sure there'll never be a sequel. But as of right now, it just doesn't look like it's going to happen. Now, according to Screen Rant, it says despite having delightful moral direction, seaworthy puns, and an all star cast, this movie failed to produce a sequel. The 2004 adventure animation follows a small, aspiring fish named Oscar who dreams of a better life in the big sea. But to enact his bubbling desires, he stoops low to concoct a scheme with Lenny. This mob connected but strictly vegetarian shark also ruins the chance of the life he dreams of. Before Oscar can learn that scheming and pretending won't afford him what he truly wants, he gets wrapped up in a life threatening chase led by a shark named Don Lino, who's Lenny and Frankie's father, and a score of shark henchmen. His frenzied adventure is balanced with a near constant utilization of aquatic themed comedy. The Godfather inspired mob hunts Oscar through a sea filled with anthropomorphic quips and puns like a whale car washes, they called it a whale wash, and breaking news interruptions with newscaster Katie Current, voiced by Katie Couric. Shark Tale's blend of adventure and comedy is made even better by a stellar cast headed by Will Smith, Robert De Niro, Renee Zellweger, and the other dozen people that I already listed. Considering the amount of entertainment value that is jam packed into this movie, it is quite unbelievable DreamWorks restricted Shark Tale to a standalone film. It says right here other projects' success dominated DreamWorks. DreamWorks released Shark Tale in 2004 during a time when the animation company found large successes in several other projects. Shark Tale had to contend with heavy hitting releases such as Shrek's anticipated sequel, Shrek 2, which also came out that same year, the debut of Madagascar, which came out the following year, and other substantial forecasted productions by DreamWorks like Kung Fu Panda, which I only saw the first one of them. I didn't see the others, but I may have to check the other ones and review them too. Shark Tale may have floundered compared to these competing productions because of how well they were sought and received at the time. But again, this is where I'm again, maybe I have to read more up on this and maybe I'm ignorant, but I would think that those movies, for as great as they were, they shouldn't have interfered with a possible or potential sequel to this film. But I mean, hey, maybe there's a lot more to it that I just don't know. So I'm not being too judgmental here. Shrek 2 not only had an all-star cast, Mike Myers, Eddie Murphy, Cameron Diaz, but the movie was well awaited after its predecessor and grossed an astonishing 440 million at the box office. Madagascar followed suit with great casting, although it didn't gross as high as Shrek 2. Madagascar did garner enough interior for in inertia. I'm sorry, misread that. Inertia for DreamWorks to pursue two sequels and a spin-off series as a result of its success. Unfortunately, Shark Tale seems to have been overshadowed by these larger animations and then forgotten upon the competition of newer and more compelling ideas that would bring movies such as Kung Fu Panda to the forefront. It says right here, poor reviews may have impacted Shark Tale 2. It wasn't just Shark Tale's economic performance that paled in comparison to DreamWorks' other animated films. This movie also faced poor reviews that notoriously marked the movie as one of DreamWorks' worst efforts. Although the sea adventure was praised by beautifully animated visuals, it was also criticized for adult leaning themes that felt misguided for a children's movie. Because Shark Tale teetered the line between adult comedy and children's animation, critics condemned the movie as either falling flat or trying too hard. So here's the deal. Let me give some examples. So I get what they're saying when it was like there were some adult leaning themes and references in there. And, watching it as a kid, and I'm sure almost anybody else in my age group probably missed this too. There's a couple I can think of. The fish is trying to slap hands like with one of the puffer fish who's voiced by Martin Scorsese. And he's like, oh, you're not snapping it right. You're not snapping it. Hey, it's okay. Don't sweat it. A lot of white fish can't do it. Kids didn't get that. So that's like, okay, that's one. There was a couple makeout scenes, but then again, we've seen kissing scenes in other animated films. There's another one I can't think of off top. Besides the fact that the sharks are together like a, Godfather inspired, like the mob, and something else going on up in here too that was like, but there was a few things in there that you looked at and said, oh yeah, that's okay. That went over the kids' heads, but we got that. So additionally, Shark Tale had to compete with the other popular undersea narrative released by Pixar, the beloved 2003 classic Finding Nemo, which came out in 2003, by the way. So in my opinion, that shouldn't have been a direct, competition or whatever. The combination of odds stacked against Shark Tale produced reviews that were relatively the same, save the few that celebrated the movie as an ode to pop culture. Overall, Shark Tale experienced judgment that reflected the same sentiment Washington Post as Desson Thompson's Washington Post review, which read, "The movie's familiarity probably won't register as anything but fun to most kids, but that vapor of mediocrity might penetrate more discerning nostrils. Many of us have grown accustomed to extremely high quality in the computer animated genre, thanks to great films such as Toy Story and Shrek. This movie just doesn't match its predecessors, and those inevitable comparisons to Disney's Finding Nemo will leave Shark Tale foundering. Will Shark Tale 2 ever happen?" It says, and this is the last one, Shark Tale may have met harsh criticisms in the early 2000s, but more recent reviews consider the animation in a more favorable light. Lately, Shark Tale has been revealed to have a strong following in viewership as it has been represented in Netflix's top 10 movies at the start of April of 2023. That's a shock. Didn't know that. Unfortunately, there's little concrete evidence to suggest that a sequel will ever happen, or if it were ever even a possibility. However, its resurgence into the public's attention could precipitate DreamWorks' interest in a sequel or reboot. I can tell you right now, if they do a reboot, it's not going to be as good as this one. I'll watch it, I'll give it a chance, but see, I sound like an old person now where it's like, hey, it's not going to be as good as the original. DreamWorks has found success after resurgences before. It has released sequel Puss in Boots: The Last Wish 10 years after the 2011 film Puss in Boots, and to great acclaim. If Shark Tale can find the same conclusion, DreamWorks could successfully pull off a continuation of Oscar's lively adventures, but if not, it may be able to at least gather the recognition it deserves. So, what I take out of that is, what I get from that is, nah, it's not going to be a sequel. It's probably not going to happen. So, and if there is going to be a sequel, it's like there's like a 1 to 5% chance of that happening. But but hey, it is what it is. It's not like it ended on a cliffhanger or anything like that. So pretty sure most of the fans of this film are perfectly fine with it being a standalone film. So you know what? Hey, again, as I've said, second funniest animated movie of all time, gets a 10 out of 10. And I got more animated movies to cover. So I'll do the Shrek movies, I'll do the Ice Age movies, the Madagascar movies, a few others. So if you're watching this on YouTube, please subscribe, help me. I'm trying to reach 500 subscribers by the end of the year. Right now I'm at about 440. So help me out here. Help me out. It's much appreciated. Go to my About section and you'll see the links to my Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, and Blue Sky. So comment below. Let me know what you thought about the movie and let me know what other movies you think that I should cover. Stay tuned.